Hi, my name is Hannah LeSueur, and I did my project on tracking sexist and demeaning comments towards Hermione Granger in the Harry Potter movie series. So, to introduce my project, my goal was to record and analyze all of the different comments that characters made towards Hermione Granger throughout all of the Harry Potter movie series. As I watched these, I was in awe of how many comments were made towards Hermione that were degrading and kind of played a huge role in how she developed in her experience. So I looked at these comments and looked at how they influenced her growing up and going to Hogwarts. And not surprisingly, Ron was the source of most of these comments. So the way that I conducted my research was by rewatching all the movies, which was so fun. And I created a coding system where I documented all the scenes where characters made fun of Hermione Granger. And I categorized them based on each of the movies. And the main things that I focused on were what they said, so the actual comment, at what point in the movie, and if it was sexual or not. And then, of course, kept a recording of it so that I could refer to it later. And so this is part of my coding system that I made. So for example, Harry Potter 1, there were 4 different scenes, and I included each of those scenes and if they were sexual and a link to the scenes and what they said. So the results were very interesting. Only 35% of the scenes were sexualized, which was a lot, but not as many as I thought it was going to be. And one thing that I found from my research was the surprising ups and downs of Ron, Harry, and Hermione's relationship. And so that was super fascinating to look into based on the kind of conversations they were having and how much tension there was in their relationship. First of all, I was very amazed at how Hermione was so successful and intelligent, yet she got so much backlash from being so awesome. So this is a graph that I made about all the different comments that were made throughout the movie series. And as you can see, they're pretty constant. Harry Potter 1, their first meeting, and so there's a lot of conflict and trying to become friends, and then gets a little bit better in the second movie, but similar in the third, and then the fourth and the fifth. It peaks the most in Harry Potter 6. I think it was this way because they were kind of at the height of tension in the outside world with Voldemort, but also in their relationship, they were trying to figure out who they liked and what kind of experiences they wanted to have together as friends. And then obviously in the last movie, it tapered off because the problems they were facing were so serious that having disagreements was not helpful at all. So they didn't have those as much. What I thought was super interesting was the number of sexual comments that were made. And as you can see in the first 3 movies, no sexual comments were made. But in the 4th movie, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione were kind of at the height of puberty and they started becoming interested in the opposite gender and exploring that and going to dances and things, you can see that the comments that were made towards Hermione were much, much higher and continued throughout the movies, but then tapered off towards the last little bit because they were facing such big problems that no one was being rude to each other. And so I just kind of wanted to go through some of the moments throughout all the movies. So in the first movie, this is a scene that I'll play.
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. She's a nightmare, honestly. No wonder she hasn't got any friends. I think she heard you.
And this movie clip was so sad. So kind of one of the first interactions that Hermione has with Ron, trying to teach her a spell, and he makes fun of her. Okay, and then Harry Potter 2, here's a clip.
At least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in. They got in on pure talent.
No one asked your opinion, you filthy little mudblood.
Now, obviously that comment, she kind of baited Malfoy, but that definitely was an uncalled for, rude thing to say. And in Harry Potter 3, we'll keep going. the main disagreement that Ron and Hermione have is over Crookshanks and Ron's rat.
I'm warning you, Hermione. Keep that bloody beast of yours away from Scabbers, or I'll turn it into a tea cozy.
It's a cat, Ronald. What do you expect? It's in his nature.
A cat? Is that what they told you? Looks more like a pig with hair, if you ask me.
That's rich, coming from the owner of that smelly old shoe brush. It's all right, Crookshanks. You just ignore the mean little boy.
Harry!
Harry!
Okay, and then you can see
I
this
think that
one.
means you owe someone an apology.
Right. Next time I see Crookshanks, I'll let him know.
I meant me. Wake up.
So you can see in that one, they're fighting the entire movie, and then Ron doesn't even apologize at the end. So the fourth one, this is kind of where the sexual demeaning comments kind of peak, and so I shared a lot of those here.
Wait, Hermione. You're a girl.
Oh, well spotted.
Can't we run away? Oh, it's one thing for a bloke to show up alone. For a girl, it's just sad.
I won't be going alone because, believe it or not, someone's asked me.
So Ron kind of made her feel bad for not having a date, but she actually did have a date.
Wait, Hermione.
And then you can see here.
He's using you.
How dare you? Besides, I can take care of myself.
Doubt it. He's way too old.
What? What? That's what you think?
That's what I think.
You know the solution then, don't you?
Go on.
Next time there's a ball, pluck up the courage and ask me before somebody else does. And not as a last resort.
Well, that's just completely off the point. Harry. They get scary when they get older.
Ron, you spoiled everything!
What's this about?
So in this movie, Hermione would have loved to go with Ron, but he was too rude and he didn't ask her and he made fun of her for going someone else, which I think was very uncalled for.
He's using you.
Okay, and then in Harry Potter 5, not as much tension, but this is an example of where Ron kind of made Hermione look bad, but even though he kind of was embarrassed.
Thank you. Shut up. I let her do that. It's good manners, isn't it? It's completely intentional.
So Ron is kind of embarrassed that he's... Anyways, so Harry Potter 6, this is where a lot of the tension peaks. This is an example.
I think she just went to powder her nose.
Sleepy little minx, your friend. Nice to work her mouth too, isn't she? Yeah.
So you can see he was only wanting Hermione for her physical body. And then Harry Potter 7, this is the last example I have of Hermione kind of taking care of the trio and not getting appreciated for it.
How long before he can travel?
I'm doing everything I can.
You're not doing enough!
So yes, in these movies, there was a lot of tension, but I wanted to end on this happy note. Somehow Ron still ended up with Hermione. How nice. Okay. So this is kind of their character story, their character arc that they went through. So they meet and become friends, they have challenges, but they learn to master magic. And then this huge drop is when Ron actually leaves Harry and Hermione while they're wandering around trying to stay away from Voldemort. But then they reunite and face him and destroy him. And then they all marry each other and live happily ever after and send their kids to Hogwarts. So now I'll go into my theoretical application. So one theory that I thought of these situations through was the exploitation of women theory. And this is where the gender stereotypes are really show through in the media, and men are dominant and really objectify women. And so a lot of these comments that were made towards Hermione were making fun of her for who she was as a woman, and a lot of men were the ones being rude to her. And then also objectification theory had to do a lot with her physical body, how she was a female and she was interested in men and was trying to date and get to know people, but a lot of sexual comments were made toward making her feel bad or being the object of someone else's pleasure. And so lots of demeaning comments there. As far as gender stereotypes go, the movie kind of portrays Hermione as the typical teenage girl who cries a lot and has lots of emotions, but she also fills in that motherly caretaker role with the trio. And then in role schema, Ron was guilty of this the most. He had certain expectations of what women were like, and he kind of put Hermione in that box and expected her to be a certain way, even though she wasn't. And then lastly, the overall theme is media violence or aggression. And throughout all of the movies, there's a lot of bantering and arguing and a lot of aggressive physical and verbal actions towards different characters. And so a lot of it came towards Hermione and probably had a major impact on her mental health and growing up. And so it brings up the question of, what does this teach kids? And were the characters justified in treating Hermione that way? And so my conclusion is that according to my findings, the media often attack and portray women as inferior and easy to tease and often sexualize them because of their gender. And the way that men and women interact with each other has a great impact on how they grow up and also the younger generation and the people viewing the media. But I'm amazed with Hermione, and she stood up for herself as a woman and she stood out in a male-dominated culture, and I really admire her. So that's all I have. Thank you.